Turn to matters also taking place in the Parliament today, because you wait for more than 2 decades for an apology, and then two come along on the same day. Fujitsu, the company which supplied the faulty Horizon IT at the heart of the post office scandal, was doubly contrite today. This was Fujitsu's global chief executive, Takahito Tokita, apologising to affected sub-postmasters and their families when confronted by a BBC reporter at the World Economic Forum in Davos.
Would you like to apologise?
Yes, of course. Fujitsu has apologized to the devastating impact on the postmasters' lives.
In his first public comments on the matter, Mr. Tokita refused to confirm that the company would return any of the money it had earned from the faulty system. Well, apology number 2, although number 1 chronologically, was made in the Commons this morning by the Fujitsu Director for Europe, Paul Patterson, at the Business Select Committee.
Fujitsu would like to apologise for our part in this appalling miscarriage of justice. We were involved from the very start. We did have bugs and errors in the system, and we did help the Post Office in their prosecutions of the sub-postmasters. For that, we are truly sorry.
The chairman of the committee, the Labour MP Liam Byrne, asked Mr. Patterson whether the company would now put its money where its mouth is.
So you've said that you're an ethical company. You've said that your evidence was used to put innocent people in prison. You've said that staff in your organisation knew that there were problems with the system. Can you tell us how much you now think your company should contribute to the compensation bill?
The inquiry is dealing with some very complex matters over...
Is there a moral obligation, Mr. Patterson, for you to contribute?
I think there is a moral obligation for the company to contribute, and I think the right place to determine that is when our responsibility is very clear. There are many parties involved in this travesty.
Well, Nick Reed, the CEO of the main party involved, the Post Office, was also questioned by and at times disbelieving Liam Byrne. Just listen to this exchange when the chair of the Select Committee asked Mr. Reed when his organisation had known that Postmasters' Horizon accounts could be accessed remotely.
I couldn't give you an exact date on that.
Why can you not answer that question? It is fundamental to this case.
What is fundamental from our perspective is we are facilitating Sir Win getting to the bottom of all of these issues.
How long have you been the chief executive now?
Because coming into the organisation...
How long have you been the chief executive now?
4 years.
You must surely have had time in 4 years to cut to the heart of this issue, which is when did the Post Office know remote access to terminals was possible?
My role, certainly coming into the Post Office, is to do a number of things. Of course it is to speed up as much as we can and as quickly as we can the compensation that's being paid. That must be the right start point.
Surely you must be telling Sir Win's inquiry when somebody in the Post Office knew that remote access to terminals was possible.
We will be providing Sir Win with all the information that he requires.
But what's the answer?
I haven't got that specific date.
And that was Nick Reed, CEO of the Post Office, being questioned by Liam Byrne, chair of the Business Select Committee. Well, joining us now is Tim Brentnell, former sub-postmaster who was prosecuted in 2010 after an alleged £22,500 shortfall was discovered at his branch in Roach in Pembrokeshire. His conviction was quashed in 2021. Good evening.
Good evening.
What did you make of the evidence that was given at that Select Committee today?
Well, it's the first time that I've heard anyone from Fujitsu speaking publicly about the scandal, and I welcome the apology from them and the genuine contrition that was shown by them.
And you believed it was genuine?
Very much so. Yeah, I mean, the Fujitsu CEO seemed to be in stark contrast to Nick Reed, who seemed to be continuing with Post Office's delaying tactics.
We heard the frustration in the voice of Liam Byrne asking those questions today. I wonder, what did you think when you heard that he couldn't give an exact date of when the Post Office knew that the IT system could be accessed remotely?
Well, I mean, to be fair to Nick Reed, as he said, he's only been in post since 2019. But you would assume that this would be one of the biggest things that comes across his desk, and he would want to be up to speed on every detail of it, rather than having to say he's going to go away and find out. Surely, as the CEO, the responsibility is with him to know all these details.
And just to be clear for you, why is that such an important point, that remote access of the system?
Well, when I was prosecuted in 2010, I had to plead guilty to false accounting on legal advice to avoid a prison sentence, because my barrister was given no disclosure and couldn't mount a defence to the charge of false accounting that was put at me. If he'd been told at the time that there was bugs or errors in the system, or remote access was possible, it's been said many times since that no jury would convict anybody knowing those facts. So, every post office prosecution since 2000 is unsafe. Hence, the government now moving to sort of give us a mass exoneration.
A mass exoneration, of course, there's a matter of compensation. I know you're one of those still in negotiation with the post office. Why is it taking so long for you?
Well, the post office have insisted, and almost it feels like we're still in litigation with them. My conviction was quashed in 2021, and since that point, I've had to build a massive file and evidence every kind of loss that I'm claiming for, and Post Office come back and say there isn't evidence of this, or we can't pay losses on that because I can't evidence them. But I mean, for me, this is going back to 2010. Some of the people in the same position as me were prosecuted as far back as 2001, and we had no idea that we were being maliciously prosecuted. So people don't tend to hang on to sort of records or documents, perhaps from the worst or darkest parts of their life.
You could have just taken the £600,000 though, couldn't you, from the government? But you are fighting on. Why have you decided to do that?
Well, as soon as I was suspended in late 2009, I lost my income from the post office. So there's a lot of earnings a claim to go in. There was also huge amounts of effect that it had on my retail business, and the loss of character and things like that. Most of us have, with quash convictions, have claims that would be in excess of that £600,000. And if you look at people like Noel Thomas from North Wales, who had a 6-month prison sentence, and other people, at least 4 people with convictions, have taken their own lives in the last decade. So how on earth does £600,000 come close to compensating people like that?
And one phrase that came out of the Fujitsu testimony there was moral obligation. Is that, I mean, what does that mean for you?
Well, yeah, for us, for anybody seeking recompense from the post office, I don't think it's a pressing issue of where the compensation pot comes from. But Fujitsu were entirely complicit. If they knew of backdoor access to the system or bugs and errors, and yet still provided witnesses in court cases saying that the system was robust and there was no access, then of course they're entirely complicit in it, and they should be held accountable for some of that compensation bill. But that can almost be sorted out after we've all been sorted out, because I'm still quite a young man. And can afford to wait a little bit, but many people in my position are in the autumn years of their life, and they really need to be sorted out now.
Tim Brentnell, a former sub-postmaster, many thanks. The main headlines so far in the world tonight.